Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and today we have a lot to get through again with the Australian weather scene. We've got a potential for a strong low pressure system to develop off New South Wales and Victoria later on this week, which could deliver up to 200 millimetres of rainfall to areas of the south coast of New South Wales. And we've got a series of more major cold fronts coming through the West Australian coastline as well, where up to 100 millimetres is possible on top of the drenching that Perth has already received. We're also going to be talking about general weather around South Australia, Queensland, and some snowfall on Tasmania. So stick around to the end. If you haven't already, then please consider subscribing and also leave a like on the video while you're at it. Your support is greatly appreciated. Starting things off with a satellite picture over New South Wales and Victoria. We've got a lot of cloud moving through the area right now, and this is the precursor cloud activity to our next low pressure system that's going to develop over New South Wales and Queensland waters. You might also be able to notice this swirl down here offshore from Victoria. Now that was once that strong low pressure system, almost of East Coast Low classifications, that was delivering a drenching it to the areas around Wollongong, where they received up to 200 millimetres of rainfall, and delivered a drenching as well and some gusty winds to the Victorian and Tasmanian coastlines. That has since eased off. Just a little bit more rain is expected throughout the course of the day for the eastern parts of Tasmania, and a couple of showers here and there are possible along the New South Wales coastline. But it's not today that we're interested in. It is the forecast for Thursday onwards. We're going to play this forecast through. You can see a little bit of rainfall over South Australia, but it's not going to amount to accumulations more than 10 or 15 millimetres for the central parts, and it's certainly not going to deliver rainfall to the parts that really do need it. But from Wednesday onwards, this is where the story gets really interesting. Through Wednesday evening and Thursday morning, we see this big mass of moist air move through the parts of New South Wales that have already been drenched, of course, around Wollongong and then down towards Batemans Bay and even as far south as Mallacoota and Victoria. This low pressure system will then begin to develop through Thursday evening and Friday morning. You can see here dragging an awful lot of moisture down from Queensland, and most of it is in the form of pretty strong thunderstorms by the looks of things. So if we roll this back just a little bit and take a look up in far north Queensland, there doesn't look like there's going to be much of a chance of thunderstorms, but down on the southeastern coast, the Sunshine Coast and the Gold Coast, including Brisbane, Thursday afternoon and evening, there is the chance of some weak thunderstorms in the Brisbane area. They'll be most likely in the eastern suburbs, but however, some of these storms could get quite strong. The highest chance of strong storms will be well out to sea, but just a heads up, Thursday evening and into Friday morning, the chance of some showers and storms for the Brisbane metro area, most likely in the eastern suburbs and most likely further south. However, there is still the chance for storms elsewhere, but it's going to be Friday morning into Friday afternoon where the weather gets really interesting down over New South Wales. This doesn't look like a full-blown East Coast low developing here, but it's getting pretty close by the looks of things. We'll just flick it over to wind speeds quickly. We've already got gale force winds on the northern side of this system wrapping around the storm's core, and these gale force winds equate to 90 or 100 km/h wind gusts even for some locations up towards the New South Wales coast, and this will extend between Narooma right up towards Foster, north of Newcastle. Newcastle itself expecting wind gusts to exceed gale force. Same thing with Sydney and Wollongong as well, and even into the western suburbs of Sydney expecting some strong wind gusts Friday afternoon and Saturday morning. This storm here will be quite close to East Coast low classifications. However, I don't think it's going to make it just because of precedence. It seems like it takes its sweet time to, or not sweet time to form, but it forms really quickly offshore from New South Wales, and I just don't think it's going to have the time to really intensify into that bomb cyclone that the Bureau of Meteorology classifies as an East Coast low. But by Saturday afternoon, it's clearing out of the New South Wales area, just a couple of showers here and there, a bit of snow possible as well on the Australian Alps up towards Thredbo. A couple of centimetres of snow is possible Saturday evening into Sunday morning, before a secondary little cold front band thing through here comes through from the south through Victoria, parts of South Australia and Tasmania Saturday night, and sweeps this not tropical low pressure area, but this system that has tropical characteristics. East Coast lows do have tropical characteristics, but it sweeps this almost East Coast low system out into the Tasman Sea and on for New Zealand. You can see Sunday morning as well, the chance of some snowfall accumulations are possible through the higher elevations outside of Thredbo and the Capital Territory in the southern parts of New South Wales, but I don't think the snowfall accumulations will be that high, just a couple of centimetres at the most. And then in the back end of this front, a pretty big pool of cool air sweeps up Sunday afternoon through Sydney, and that means that we'll be seeing some bitterly cold conditions Saturday, Sunday, and maybe even into Monday morning as well. Strong winds, very cold conditions powered by this high pressure system over New South Wales and Victoria. We'll likely be seeing temperatures jump or bounce down in towards -3, -4, maybe even -5 for some locations in the agricultural districts. They will be cold, and it looks like it's going to be the first real big taste of this true winter weather that we're starting to see dominate the Australian forecast. And you can see Tasmania fully engulfed in freezing cold conditions down towards -4 or -5 through Monday morning. Likely be a little bit colder as well, considering the wind speeds that are going to be moving through that area as a high pressure system dominates that forecast. In general, behind these systems, when we see those high pressure systems come through behind them, it means very cold conditions, some wind as well for the coastal regions, which is going to make those wind chills absolutely awful and unbearable. Sydney on Monday morning. But those high-pressure systems can bring some bitterly cold nights and power some snowfall accumulations as well for the New South Wales Highlands and into Victoria as well. But you can see here over the next 10 days, very good snowfall accumulations are expected. 25 centimetres, a quarter of a metre of snow expected, and a lot of this is going to settle as well and stick around with us. And even into the Victorian Highlands, 10 to 15 centimetres also expected. And it looks like we're going to be seeing snow as low as 1,300 metres as well, light dustings as low as 13 or even 1,200 metres some locations. I mean, looking here just outside of Captain's Flat and Braidwood in outside of the Capital Territory, nearly a centimetre of snow expected there, so snowfall will be falling quite low to the ground. And just outside of Tamworth through here in the Highlands up as you get towards Forster and Newcastle, a little bit of snowfall expected there, but those are some quite high mountains. I'm not exactly sure of the specific mountain names up here, but I know that they do make a part of the Eastern Australian mountain range, the Great Dividing Range, that's its name. But yeah, the bulk of the snowfall rather will be around the massive mountains like Kosciuszko and so forth. Need I say any more on that? In terms of peak rainfall accumulations from this weather system, we're looking at up to 200, maybe 220 millimetres of rain here for Batemans Bay, that sort of area just north of Batemans Bay at Ulladulla. Up to 200 millimetres can be expected there, and widespread totals above 100 millimetres expected north of the New South Wales Victoria border, right through towards Wollongong, where they're also expecting 100 millimetres. Sydney itself expecting a little bit drier, 40 millimetres or so of rainfall. Penrith expecting 30 millimetres. As you get up towards Gosford and Newcastle, only 10 to 15 millimetres expected up there. And I do think that this is a very valid forecast this time. I don't see any reason to be doubting this forecast. It's congruent between all major forecast models, and even the Icon forecast model, which is the one that I rarest use on this channel, is also saying the exact same thing. So this weather system, think of it as set in stone. It's going to develop Friday. It's going to be at its worst Saturday, delivering that heavy rainfall from Friday afternoon right through to Saturday afternoon, maybe even into Sunday morning as well for parts of the New South Wales coastline. So if you are on the roads on Saturday and even on the commute Friday afternoon, make sure you are taking extra care. Those driving conditions will be hazardous. And rainfall, good rainfall accumulations, mind you, are going to be extending quite far inland, even into the agricultural districts around Wagga Wagga, Griffith and that sort of area, even as far north as Bathurst, expecting a couple of millimetres, at least 50 or so for some locations, and widespread 25 to 50 millimetres for other locations. And this is in drought affected areas as well. It looks like this is some very good rainfall accumulations, and this is fantastic to see on the forecast. And by early next week, those soil moisture anomalies will be back to normal. However, what is a little bit concerning is just how moist the soil moisture values are. They're about 50 to 60% above average for a lot of New South Wales rather, and around the New South Wales coastline too. I did cite a comment about how Wollongong, the rainfall there is normal. You'd be forgiven for thinking that it is unseasonably wet down there. It has been. Their rainfall accumulations are about 30% above the yearly average so far, and with more rainfall on the cards, it doesn't look like it's drying out anytime soon. So much for a dry winter across New South Wales. It looks like it is going to be a wet one, because we certainly have had a wet start, and there's no sign of this rainfall easing off until at least July, mid-July or August, because of how warm those sea surface temperatures are offshore. And that is, once again, a very long-winded forecast for New South Wales, but we've hammered out all the details. Victoria as well is expecting a good amount of rainfall, at least 25 millimetres from Melbourne. The west coast of Tasmania expecting about 50 to 80 millimetres of rainfall. Adelaide finally expecting a very good helping of rainfall too, 50 millimetres expected on, I believe, the Stirling Ranges outside of Adelaide. I'm not familiar with my Adelaide geography or even South Australia geography on a whole, but it looks like a lot of this rainfall is going to be coming through Friday afternoon and into Saturday morning, or Saturday afternoon rather. You're seeing a bit of rainfall come through then, and then a strong cold front through next Tuesday and Wednesday, which would be the remnants of the cold front to impact Western Australia, coming through and bringing in the final amount of rainfall up there. And they'll also bring in some more snowfall for the Great Dividing Ranges on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday later next week. Up in Queensland and the Northern Territory over the next 10 days, it is high and dry. There's really not much to be talking about whatsoever. There's hardly any locations in Queensland expecting decent rainfall at all. It's actually far north Queensland that's still going to be the wettest part of Queensland over the next 10 days. But when you're talking about 15 millimetres being the wettest location for the second largest state in Australia, that is ridiculously low rainfall. And it's about time. They do need some dry weather up there. Northern Territory as well, expecting drier conditions as well this week. In the northern parts of Australia, also some dry conditions. South Australia expecting slightly wetter conditions, like I said, with Adelaide, 50 millimetres of much needed rainfall down there. Even the Eyre Peninsula expecting between 10 and 25 millimetres over the next 10 days. It looks like they're finally starting to get that much needed rainfall. Let's shift focus now to Western Australia. I don't want to spoil everything right now, but it is a fine picture by the looks of things for the West Australian area around Perth. Just a couple of showers throughout the course of today, and it looks like we've got a couple of days of fine weather as well. You can see that high pressure system dominating the Indian Ocean at this time. That's promoting that cooler than average weather conditions that we're going to be seeing throughout the course of today, and the speckly showers that we're also going to be seeing throughout the course of today. And that's also why it's been really foggy around the Perth area for the last couple of days. But don't be fooled, this is the next weather system that's going to be coming through. It's going to be a strong one too. It looks like Thursday we're in for some more big rainfall totals later, especially later on in the evening. Couple of storms also possible. Looks like the Perth metro area Thursday afternoon and evening in for a good helping of rainfall. Up to 30 millimetres is possible on the Bureau of Meteorology's forecast. I'd be a little bit more reasonable and say between 10 and 20 millimetres is the most likely rainfall accumulation, but again, it could blow out just a little bit because it will be a big rain front. Wind speed shouldn't be too strong. It's certainly not going to be as strong as the front that we just had last weekend, but in terms of peak wind speed, it's probably about 65 to 70 kilometres an hour for the Perth coastal region. Yep, bang on there. And on the rainfall front, maybe 25 millimetres or so. I don't think it's going to be too high. Between 20 and 25 millimetres for the Darling Ranges and about 20 millimetres for Perth, or 15 millimetres actually for Perth. And reciprocated amongst the forecast models, you know that it is going to be happening. The Axis G3 calling for slightly more rainfall, and that's why the Bureau of Meteorology is probably a little bit more aggressive with their rainfall forecast. But I don't think we're going to be seeing this big stream of thunderstorms smash into the Perth coast like we did see on Saturday, or the Sunday just gone. I do think that this weather system will be a lot more tame. Behind it, there's going to be no shower activity whatsoever, so it looks like Friday morning could be a chance to get some washing done real quick, because it might be a fine morning by the looks of things. Before Saturday, we start to see another big cold front approach the coastline. It's going to drag in a lot of tropical moisture from the north as well. Likely going to be seeing some showers and thunderstorms start up in the Perth metro area from about 8 p.m. Saturday onwards, and they'll really start to pick up through the early hours of Sunday morning, and they'll extend really deep inland as well. You can see strong thunderstorms dominating the forecast for the Wheatbelt region and even into the goldfields as well. This is some very heavy rainfall for this area, especially for this time of the year. It looks like some very healthy thunderstorms are coming through Saturday evening into Sunday morning. They're going to be great to watch, and this rainfall won't ease off for parts of the Wheatbelt until at least Sunday early afternoon as well, and this is going to equate to rainfall accumulations of around 35 millimetres or so per hour, which will likely equate to peak rainfall accumulations of around 70 millimetres as this cold front makes its passage through. It's going to be for the northern parts of the Wheatbelt, might even extend as far north as the Goldfields or even the Gascoyne region, but it doesn't look like it's going to be penetrating too far south as well by the looks of things. The rainfall really does ease off for areas around Narrogin, Katanning, Lake Grace, that sort of area, north of the Stirling Ranges and north of Albany and the south coastal regions, but it looks like some very healthy rainfall accumulations to the central Wheatbelt and even parts of the northern Wheatbelt. It is a great forecast for farmers, much needed rainfall up there, and hopefully it is steady rainfall that tops up those dams and water tanks and really it soaks into the ground as well, because they do desperately need that, that's for sure. Behind this front through Sunday, we're going to be having a day of wild weather as well, especially through the early afternoon hours of Sunday. There's going to be heavy showers, small hailstones, thunder, lightning, the whole magazine of severe weather coming through Sunday, and hopefully easing off by Monday morning, but it looks like still a few showers expected there. Damaging winds as well are basically a given as well at this point for Sunday morning. We could be expecting wind gusts up to 90 kilometres an hour offshore, and with that comes the threat of big waves. We're talking 6 to 7 metres in the Perth coastal region. As you get closer towards the Perth coast, about 3 to 4 metres, still very high wave heights, but thankfully we are protected by Garden, Karnak and Rottnest Island, and that allows us to get the kind of the best pick of the weather. The wave heights will be significantly smaller, but out to sea, I mean 6 to 7 metre high waves, that is very high indeed. It looks like we've got a very nasty shower pool coming in on Sunday. It's going to be the stronger part of this cold front as well by the looks of things of the Perth metro area, and especially as you get further south, this weather system isn't going to be impacting the south coastal areas as much. It's going to be impacting northern parts of the lower west and into the central wheat belt and the central coast parts of Western Australia between Geraldton and Perth. However, it still looks like Perth is going to cop a walloping, but areas further south like Bunbury, Bustleton, Margaret River, Augusta, they're not expecting a belting from the initial cold front of this weather system. Just a couple of showers and storms expected there, but it will be the Perth metro area copying it, and then up to further north for Jurien Bay, they'll also be copying it too. The shower band, like I have been saying, will likely be stronger than the shower band in the weather system just gone last weekend, but we could be seeing a further 30 millimetres fall on top of that. And for peak rainfall accumulations, we're talking at least 50 millimetres for a lot of the Perth metro area, especially into the eastern suburbs as well, and southern suburbs rather, expecting a lot of rainfall, 70 millimetres of the stuff. And further north, we're talking between 70 and 80 millimetres as you get up towards Anibiaba, Geraldton, Bongara, and Jurien Bay as well, expecting between 70 and 80 millimetres of rainfall, which will likely ease off as you get as far north as Kalbarri and Northampton, but still Shark Bay expecting 10 millimetres of rainfall too, and it's going to be a pretty wet picture for the entirety of the south west of Western Australia, right through the wheat belt, into the goldfields, and maybe even into parts of the Gascoyne as well. You can see the rainfall will be northern focused. Perth still expecting a lot of rainfall, but it will be areas between Jurien Bay and Geraldton that get the absolute worst of it, at least on Saturday night, and then the violent weather will sweep in from the south through Sunday. With violent weather like this, we also have the chance of small hailstones, and sometimes in these really strong weather systems, the chance of snow flurries on the Stirling Ranges, and if you're really lucky on the Paronga, but don't get too excited, there's no snowfall on the forecast from this weather system. It will be cold in the shower pool behind it, but still 0 centimetres of snow expected on the Stirling Ranges, and it looks like snow lovers are going to have to wait just a little bit longer into winter for the snow to start falling on the West Australian mountains. It is a very rare sight to see. However, it does still look like some good rainfall. It will at least green it up and make it a much more pleasant hiking experience. Thankfully, it looks like the rainfall eases off by early next week. Another weather system coming in sort of late Wednesday and Thursday, but this looks like it's going to be thunderstorm focused into the central wheatbelt area. This is much more of a summer weather pattern, and I don't expect it to happen like the forecast models are saying right now. But just a heads up, a little bit of rainfall is possible later on in the forecast period. I don't entirely buy this forecast, though. We're going to have to wait and see on what actually happens on this forecast, but just a heads up, a little bit more rainfall is likely beyond the weather system that's going to come through Saturday and Sunday. It is likely to go severe warned. It looks like it's going to be a strong one, so make sure you are preparing for it adequately and hunkering down Saturday night and Sunday with a nice pack of cool beers, watching the storms roll in from the west. But yeah, that is all from me today. Thank you so much for your company this morning, even the weather forecast for you once again. There likely will be patchy uploads this week, and I've got a big event on, and then next week as well I'm going travelling, so I've got a patchy upload schedule from mid-June onwards, and I do apologise in advance for that, but thank you so much for sticking with me so far. Your support has been greatly appreciated, and I promise I'll make it up to you in the month of July, August, and then into tropical season as well. We're going to continue to track the tropics, because that is truly where the fun is, tracking those big tropical cyclones that move north of Australia. But yeah, that is all from me this morning. Thank you so much for watching the video. Like and subscribe, of course, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.